The hand landed on her shoulder like a vice. Patricia Morrison froze. The smell hit her next, whiskey breath, thick and sour, rolling over the back of her neck. Curtis leaned closer, his weight pressing into the vinyl seat behind her. Massive. Swaying, she tried to pull away. His grip tightened. The bus groaned through downtown Seattle, fluorescent lights flickering overhead. Evening rush hour, packed, 30 witnesses, and every single one of them stared at their shoes. Patricia's throat closed, her hands shook against her lap. Curtis laughed, low and wet, whispered something she didn't want to hear. Then the air shifted. A figure rose from the back. Moved down the aisle like water flowing downhill, silent, precise, inevitable. No hurry, no hesitation, just forward motion that demanded space without asking for it. Imagine being trapped while everyone watches. Few could understand what Patricia felt in those seconds before Bruce Lee stepped between her and the man who believed no one would stop him. Bruce's voice cut through the engine's hum, calm, final. "Leave her alone," Curtis's bloodshot eyes lifted. His smile widened. But what happened next would prove that size means nothing when facing someone who has already decided how this ends. Curtis straightened to his full height, 6 inches above Bruce's head. His laugh erupted, loud, wet with alcohol, meant for every passenger watching. "Little man, sit down." He waved a dismissive hand. "This doesn't concern you." Bruce's voice emerged unchanged, the same measured tone. "Leave her alone." The repetition hung in the stale bus air like a challenge Curtis couldn't ignore. His lip curled. He raised one thick finger and jabbed it toward Bruce's chest, driving the point home with theatrical slowness. "You going to kung fu me?" The finger never made contact. Bruce's hand moved, a blur passengers would struggle to describe later. His fingers wrapped Curtis's extended digit mid-poke, bending it backward with surgical precision. The angle defied anatomy. Curtis's sneer collapsed. His mouth opened, but no sound came. Just a sharp intake of breath as white-hot pain shot from fingertip to shoulder, locking every aggressive instinct in place. His knees buckled slightly. The finger held him captive, a leash made of bone and ligament. 30 witnesses watched the transformation, the towering drunk reduced to a frozen statue, unable to advance or retreat, trapped by something as simple as leverage. But what Curtis chose to do next would determine whether philosophy or fists finished this confrontation. Curtis yanked backward, nothing happened. Bruce's fingers held the joint at the threshold of fracture, iron wrapped in calm. Curtis twisted his torso, trying to use his bulk as leverage. The pain doubled. His arm trembled, trapped in geometry that wouldn't negotiate. Bruce's voice cut through the drunk's labored breathing. "Next stop, you get off this bus." Curtis's eyes flicked toward the aisle, searching for escape, found none. "That's not a request." The bus driver's gaze locked onto the rearview mirror. He'd seen enough bar fights to know when someone was about to snap. His hand moved to the radio, then stopped. Instead, he pulled the wheel right, tires grinding against the curb 3 blocks early. The brakes groaned. The bus lurched to a halt. Doors hissed open like a serpent exhaling. No one moved. 30 witnesses held their breath, the air thick with sweat and stale cigarette smoke from someone's coat. Patricia Morrison pressed herself against the window, her pulse visible in her throat. Curtis's face darkened from pink to crimson. Every pair of eyes boring into him. Humiliation is a venom that turns inward then explodes outward. His free hand clenched, knuckles whitened. Rage replaced pain in his expression, and the question that burned through every mind on that bus was the same. What would a humiliated predator do when witnesses became judges? Bruce opened his hand. Curtis's finger slipped free, trembling. Bruce stepped backward through the open doors, boot heels meeting concrete with 2 soft taps. Cool evening air replaced the bus's stale heat against his face. Off. Now the command hung between them, quiet and absolute. Curtis's jaw clenched, his right arm coiled back, muscles bunching beneath the damp shirt, and he launched a wild arcing punch toward Bruce's head. Bruce simply wasn't there. His body shifted 3 inches left, spine rotating, and Curtis's fist carved empty air where a face had been. The momentum yanked Curtis forward. Gravity claimed him. He stumbled down the bus steps, arms windmilling, feet slapping pavement to stop his collapse. Bruce stood balanced on the sidewalk, weight centered, hands open at his sides, untouched. Curtis straightened, panting. Spit glistened at the corner of his mouth. Behind them, 30 faces pressed against the bus windows. Patricia Morrison gripped the seat back, knuckles white. Walter Green's hands froze on the steering wheel. Leonard Hayes leaned forward, breath fogging glass. The audience wasn't just watching, they were learning. Curtis's fists clenched again, and what happened in the next 4 seconds would define everything Bruce Lee believed about violence. Curtis roared forward, concrete scraping beneath his boots. His right fist cut through the evening air, a haymaker aimed at Bruce's temple. Bruce shifted his weight. The fist sailed past his ear. Curtis reset, drove a left hook toward the ribs. Bruce pivoted, spine rotating just enough. Empty space where flesh should have been. The third punch came wild, desperate. A straight right that carried Curtis's full mass behind it. Bruce stepped offline, the blow missing by inches. Curtis stumbled forward, momentum betraying him. The sour stench of sweat thickened between them. Curtis's chest heaved, each breath scraping his throat raw. Perspiration beaded along his brow, traced down his temple. His arms, they hung heavier now, shoulders beginning to sag under the weight of wasted effort. Bruce stood 3 feet away. His breathing remained steady, controlled. Not a single bead of sweat marked his face. His hands stayed open, low, unthreatening. Each of Curtis's attacks had met only air, while Bruce conserved every ounce of energy, a reservoir untouched. Inside the bus, 30 faces pressed against glass understood what they were witnessing. This wasn't mercy. This was precision. Absolute control demonstrated through the refusal to destroy. What Curtis didn't yet realize was that his exhaustion had become Bruce's most devastating weapon. Silence. Curtis gulped air like a drowning man. Sweat darkened his collar, plastered his shirt to his ribs. His shoulders rose and fell in ragged rhythm. Bruce stood 3 feet away, breathing through his nose, hands loose at his sides. "You've thrown 4 punches," Bruce said. His voice carried no triumph, no mockery, just fact. "Haven't landed one." Curtis's jaw worked, teeth grinding audible in the quiet. 30 faces pressed against bus windows, watching. "You're tired, I'm not." The cool Seattle air bit at Curtis's damp skin. He shivered, not from cold. Bruce's eyes held him the way his grip had earlier, steady and inescapable. "This ends badly for you if you continue." Curtis's fists trembled, still clenched, still ready, but the knuckles had gone white, bloodless. "Walk away." The words hung between them like smoke. Curtis's chest heaved. His gaze darted left to the empty street, then back to Bruce. Few men could swallow humiliation in front of an audience. Fewer still could transform rage into wisdom in a single breath. Curtis's right hand opened, fingers uncurled. Then his left, the choice crystallized in that heartbeat, but what happened next would determine whether 30 witnesses learned restraint, or whether violence would claim one final victim. Curtis staggered backward, his boots scraped concrete, unsteady, retreating down the sidewalk like a bull collapsing under its own weight. No punch had touched him, yet he looked demolished. 30 witnesses watched through fogged bus windows as he stumbled into the evening shadows, shoulders hunched, fists dangling useless at his sides. Bruce stepped back onto the bus. The doors hissed shut behind him. Silence. Patricia Morrison sat near the driver, mascara streaking her cheeks, hands trembling in her lap. She looked up at Bruce as he passed, her voice cracked. "Thank you." Bruce paused. His expression softened, but his words carried weight few could anticipate. "Don't thank me for doing what everyone should do," he said quietly. "Helping isn't heroism. It's being human." The girl blinked, absorbing the statement like a blow gentler than any fist. Bruce returned to his seat at the back. The bus rumbled forward, but something had shifted. Passengers no longer stared at their laps or out windows. They stared at him, not with fear, not with admiration, but with something far more dangerous: understanding, the kind that changes how a person moves through the world afterward. And three men near the middle rows couldn't look away. The intercom crackled with static. Walter Green's voice filled the bus, deliberate and clear. "That man defended someone without throwing a single punch. That's real control." Passengers leaned forward. Whispers rippled through the vinyl seats like wind through wheat. The diesel smell hung thick in the evening air, but nobody moved toward the exit. Bruce returned to his seat at the back. He said nothing. Three men in the middle rows didn't look away. Leonard Hayes, 28, construction worker, knuckles scarred from bar fights. He gripped the seat rail until his fingers went white. Benjamin Foster, 32, social worker, tie loosened after a long shift. He pressed his palm against the window glass, exhaling slowly. Andrew Kim, 24, substitute teacher, textbook stacked on his lap. He let them slide to the floor, forgotten. Few could understand what shifted in those moments. It wasn't the finger lock or the dodged punches. It was the choice Bruce made after every evasion: to not destroy when destruction was easiest. Restraint weaponized, philosophy embodied. Leonard's hand released the rail. Benjamin's breath fogged the glass. Andrew bent down but didn't pick up his books. Something had cracked open inside all three of them, and the question forming in their minds would soon demand an answer neither money nor pride could buy. 3 weeks after the bus incident, Leonard Hayes stood outside Bruce Lee's Seattle Quoon. His work boots scraped against the concrete step. Benjamin Foster and Andrew Kim flanked him, each man's breath visible in the cool evening air. Through the door, the scent of polished wood and sweat drifted outward. Leonard knocked. Bruce opened the door. No surprise registered on his face. Leonard's calloused hands opened, closed. "We don't want to learn how to fight," Bruce waited. "We want to learn what you did on that bus," Benjamin said. The control," Andrew nodded. "How to choose." Bruce stepped aside. The wood floor gleamed under fluorescent lights. "Then you're asking the right question." Months unfolded in that Quoon. Bruce didn't teach them to destroy, he taught them to decide. Violence wasn't forbidden, it was simply placed where it belonged. Last, after words, after presence, after every other choice exhausted, they absorbed it differently. Leonard's fists, once quick to solve problems, learned to stay still. Benjamin's voice grew steadier in crisis. Andrew's classroom presence shifted, became something his students felt before he spoke. Few realized how soon each man would face a moment demanding everything Bruce taught them. The lessons were already spreading beyond that Quoon, carried into streets and homes and schools where choices would define lives. But what happened when restraint met something restraint couldn't stop? That test was coming faster than any of them knew. Andrew Kim stood in the cafeteria doorway, the smell of burnt tater tots thick in the air. Two students circled each other, fists clenched, 15-year-old fury ready to ignite. He didn't run, didn't shout. He stepped between them and waited. His voice dropped low. "You've already made the hard choice. Standing down takes more strength than throwing that punch." The taller boy's shoulders sagged. Tension dissolved into silence. Across the city, Benjamin Foster sat across from a trembling wife, her husband pacing the small apartment like a caged animal. The stench of whiskey clung to the man's breath. Benjamin didn't flinch when the husband's hand slammed the table. He simply held eye contact. "You're angry, I see it, but what happens after you act on it? You lose everything." Or, he paused. "You choose something better." The man's hand unclenched. He sat down. Leonard Hayes tucked his daughter into bed that night. She asked why he never yelled like other dads. He smiled, brushed her hair back. "Bruce Lee taught me that true strength is choosing not to destroy when you could." Years blurred into decades. The lesson, born on a Seattle bus in 1966, rippled outward through classrooms, living rooms, playgrounds. Restraint became legacy. Philosophy became bloodline.